It can't be a surprise, but it is something I wanted to pass along about Georgia and a couple of players specifically, same position, that are jumping out to insiders that we talk to as Georgia prepares for the 2024 season. It's always important to have a strong run game. And it's very possible Georgia could have that in a very big way um, this season. They're going to have a big test with Clemson. Clemson has a very legitimate defense. I was talking with somebody over the weekend, one insider that was talking about how Clemson feels like this is one of their best defensive fronts that they've had since they had the national championship run in 16 and 18. And if you don't recall, Georgia had a hard time. They did it, but they had a hard time running the ball against Clemson in 2021. We're going to see what that's like, though, now that this fleet of running backs is coming at everybody that Georgia plays. Right now, there's a lot of optimism about. We've talked a lot about Trevor Etienne. Trevor Etienne will probably be Georgia's number one running back, but I don't want to get away from the sort of buzz and so forth about Branson Robinson, his return to Georgia, and to playing, not return to Georgia, and then Nate Frasier. So Nate Frasier is a freshman, and we'll talk about Branson first. Branson from Mississippi has been a guy that had to come back from a very serious injury, and there were times last year where it looked like Branson Robinson really could be something that Georgia could use. Like, what I mean by that is, like, he could be a number one guy. And then coming into the season, having the injury that he had was a really tough thing because it left Georgia really with two scholarship backs a season ago. Andrew Paul had gotten hurt. There were a lot of problems coming into the thing. So, um, you know, Kirby was talking about this earlier this week. He says Branson Robinson is going to practice without limitations, but he will have load management on him. And that when you hear people talk, though, they're really impressed with Robinson. Here's Kirby again before fall camp. He said, "I don't know what the number of months is. It seems like it's almost a year since it happened last preseason. It's not a shock to me that he's able to start and go without limitation, but the load management's critical because you can't take someone who hasn't done everything, and just throw them into everything. So we have to be smart about that, but it's certainly promising. I thought going in that he was having a really good camp, talking about last year. He looked really good. I remember thinking, golly, this guy was really getting really getting ready to have a great season, great camp, and then he has to go back. Talking about after the injury, you're gonna have to remember. You forget the blitz pickups. You forget all the things that he missed out on that he didn't get a chance to do that he's doing now. I know he's looking forward to it. We're excited to get him out there. Now, my caveat with this is a lot of people, quarterbacks, running backs, those are guys that people can easily tell that they're good. When a guy comes back from an injury, that's something that people really get excited about. And I wonder if folks are overdoing it in a way. I don't know that. But there's been a lot of discussion of Branson Robinson behind the scenes. Secondly, it could just be that he's doing that well. I mean, that's completely possible. Now, Nate Frasier coming from California, again, is new. These are two players. Georgia's. It is possible that coming into this season, that Georgia's top three carriers of the football didn't carry the ball for them at all last year. In fact, three of the top whatever, that will be the case. So we could see a very different run game than we've seen lately from a lot of these guys. Now, Nate Frasier is explosive. He's not like you're not, I don't think, going to be stunned by watching him take off for multiple 60-yard runs this season. I don't think he's James Cook necessarily, but he has a lot of people have seen what he's been able to do, and they're impressed. In the SEC, I don't. It sounds going to sound. Everybody can do long runs. Todd Gurley, Noshawn, Thomas Brown, Herschel, Worley. I mean, that is great. Like, you want that, but you want everything else that leads to those long runs. You can't plan a Robert. I mean, if you had Robert Edwards, this offense would be sick. Now, the question is, do you have Edwards and ETN? Is he like DeAndre Swift and Robert Edwards, where they're gone? Or like, what kind of arsenal are you working with here with the running backs? And I said this not that long ago when Kirby had his comment about the running backs. And I'm like, wow, that's a very serious statement when he said this. Here's his quote about the running backs. He said, "I'm excited about the room. Branson Robinson is a guy that took a ton of reps last year for us in a position of just being here on the team, just getting here, and he's had a great offseason. Branson Robinson, we talked about him coming back. Cash Jones, people forget about Cash Jones, has been a veteran leader in that room. The young guys that are coming back in the room that we just signed have had great summers. That's Nate Frasier, Dwight Phillips, and Chauncey Bowens." So I've not talked a lot about Bowens. I've not heard a lot about Bowens, but, that doesn't mean he's not doing fine too. Anyway, Kirby goes on to say, "I think we've got a room of good backs, as talented as we've had, but inexperienced. And Trevor Etienne does a good job of leading that room and holding people to a standard in that room." You have two older guys in Cash Jones and Trevor Etienne. So they're older. One guy has done it a lot in the league. One guy has been at Georgia the whole time. You have two up-and-comers in the Robinsons with Roderick and Branson. And, Roderick Robinson had a really good Orange Bowl. I mean, he flashed at times. And then you've got these younger guys. The combination of the skill at running back with the offensive line that Georgia's got is what I would be watching for sure. Because anybody can go throw the ball. I mean, Mississippi State under Mike Leach, they did that. That's who they are. South Carolina a season ago. That's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. Georgia was 20th a year ago in running offense. And that's certainly not bad. But that's not it is very possible that they could be in a different category this season. And what you don't want, the last 2 years, I'm just looking back at the statistics. These last 2 years, they were in the top 20, 19 and 20, and in 21 they were 36. They weren't great running it in 19 and 18. Yeah, 56 in 2020, 41 in 19. In 18 they had some really good backs. They just weren't Nick and Sony. And then in 17 they were number 9. I think it's not out of the realm of possibility that they'd be in the top 12 this season. That would be a really productive grouping for the Georgia Bulldogs. That would be a really productive season at running back. And when you can control the ball like that, and when you have an explosive offense in the passing game, that gives you the capability of being completely balanced. Ohio State 2 years ago now had an exceptional quarterback. I mean, he was something else. The team that they gave Georgia a lot of trouble, they ran enough. But the team that's given Georgia more trouble than anybody, I guess including Alabama really, even though they've beaten Missouri twice and Alabama once in the last 2 games against those teams, has been Missouri. And it's because of Missouri's ability to run the football. Just to flip that to Georgia, if Georgia has the capability to run on everybody, including Alabama and Texas and eventually Ole Miss, that's, that part right there, that will be so critical to a season that could result in a national championship. It's hard to win it without running it. Everybody remembers the quarterbacks at Clemson. They remember Deshaun. They remember Trevor. Etienne was as good a running back as Clemson's ever had. ever. Wayne Gallman was really good for them in 16. He was really good, and Deshaun did a good job of running. So did Trevor. But they had good running backs. One of them was great. Does Georgia have a great running back this season? And do they have depth? Clemson's never had depth at running back. Alabama has. And, Alabama could hammer you over and over again in 11 and 12. Those teams had, Yeldon and they had depth at running back. If a guy got hurt, a guy got hurt. Last year, Georgia was out guys for stretches of the season. They had Dylan Bell back there running the football. I do think we will see Dylan Bell run the football this season as well. I just don't think he'll be lining up at running back, 4 times in an SEC game, right? They've got what they need at this spot, and people inside the program are very excited. And Kirby, the guy who doesn't say much at all, spotlighted this from day one. And I will say, at first I was like, I don't know, man. But the more I hear about it, the more that y'all should be excited. Thanks for watching.